Stuart Marshall lives on a small island off the coast of Vancouver Island. We met him at his studio where he paints during the winter months. Marshall is an accomplished painter, at ease with oils, acrylics, pastels, and watercolors.
I prefer oils. If I were to choose between acrylics and oils, I'd give up acrylics immediately to be able to use oils if they would only dry quicker, because the color, what you paint is what you get. The colors are so, they are much more vibrant.
Stuart was born in Quebec in 1944. After art school at Sir George Williams in Montreal, he moved to the West Coast, where he can paint outside most of the year. Always adventuresome, for the last 25 years, he has been traveling and painting all the beauties of the West Coast, from the coastal mountain range to the ocean. His artwork and lifestyle are reminiscent of the Group of Seven. On one of his adventures, he sailed solo on a sailboat transformed into a studio and painted the South Pacific Islands. In 1973, he returned to the west coast of British Columbia, where he built his first kayak and started touring and painting along the coast up to the Queen Charlotte Islands and beyond. Another medium he uses is pastel, although he does not take it with him in his kayak.
Not in the kayak, no. It's too dusty, and in the kayak, it's too much of a threat to everything around. You get that fine chalky powder of every color going everywhere if it gets spilt, and it can threaten your watercolors. Too eager to cause damage that way. So, and of course, with the dampness of the ocean life. The pastels have very little binder. They're ready to dissolve. I think it's more, for me, a studio material, but I use it outdoors a fair amount.
Driven by his passion for painting, every year he leaves for his annual painting trip from the tip of Vancouver Island, going north as far as Alaska.
For the hooligan season, which is more or less the biological beginning of spring in this country. It's when all the life seems to start to get its first run at things. The feed and the sea lions, the eagles, and everything get their first whack at a good meal when the hooligans start to run up. In the summertime, it's a great studio out here. It does have all the ambiance of a great creative living painting out here. I can get so much information from the outdoors, and so much peace and solitude, and a creative force that is undeniably surrounds me and fills me when I'm out here, whereas in the studio in the city, there's so many distractions.
I'm a water person. I grew up on the water, and at the same time, as an artist, I've always stuck, you know, strictly to doing my art in lieu of, you know, making a salary to, you know, just as a lifestyle, let's say. So for me to be able to go to be somewhere and not think about making money, which a big part of is, you know, food, clothing, and shelter, I found that was the quickest way when I came out west to have a very broad studio in the summertime. I didn't need any of that. I could be out here all summer and not need any money, really. You know, I have the best food in the world, the most exciting and healthful environment, and who cares what I wear, you know? I concentrate on my artwork, and in the fall I could come back with my year's work and take it up from there. It's fun. Every year things change a bit, and it's always exciting to set out and wonder really what's going to happen this year, you know, in the visual world. This is all the stuff that I carry in my kayak in the forward part, and when I'm not just camping, and when I want to stop and paint, this is stuff I haul out from the bow of the boat and bring it happily ashore and set up my little home wherever it is. I probably carry about 300 to 400 pounds during the summer between the artwork and water and camping supplies and food and that.
After high school, he learned to live in the wilderness, spending a year fur trapping in northern Quebec to finance his first year at art school.
If you do put yourself in a situation where you haven't caught something, you make sure next time that it doesn't happen to you, you make the priority to get your food, then set camp, or get your food when the tide is calm. Because 15 minutes later, half an hour later, suddenly the wind will be up and the current will be running, and you won't get another chance that day, you know. Before I come in here, usually in the kayak, I pick up there's lots of cod out on the reefs out here, and kelp and seaweed, and there's greens on the beach to have a pot vegetable steamed or raw to have your vitamin C, which is really necessary. And then as the season gets later, there's berries. Salal berries especially are common here. I make a point of not bringing campers' foods or whatever supplies that are in excess of staples, so that I'm more or less forced by hunger to use my imagination and to look and find food, you know, and then I'm self-sufficient, and I've made the transition. I can just be out here and not really worry about going and getting anything, because it's all here. There's lots of times, like once this time of year starts to come, especially once the berries start to ripen, the salmon are running, that I really don't need any staple items. Coffee and sugar are the luxuries. I've been painting since I was a young child. I've always had a penchant for going out with my paint box into the wild. I've always done it. You know, wherever I go, I always have my paint box with me. It's always an excuse for me to go traveling. I know when I was in Montreal, I would paint almost entirely at night after 11 o'clock at night, and so did most of my painter friends. And I painted abstract work, and it was an entirely different type of life. And it was equally as energetic, but out here it's much more healthful and relaxing. You know, there's a continuity here that doesn't change very much, and keeps on drawing me back, and changes in a different way, natural way. I don't want to contrive or interpret or force upon the viewer anything that I think. Especially, I would rather be filled with a feeling or a perception and just put it down for what it is, honestly, you know. And it's always on that level of fine balance too, of getting the message across in such a way that it can be perceived by the viewer, and but yet not so forceful as it can, that's misunderstood. I know why I'm going out, and I let it lead me on, and I watch things wash away. The things that I'm coming out for to get, and the things I'm leaving behind that are not conducive to doing my artwork or distracting to me. I know that this is the process, and it does take a little bit of time, and as I feel the energy coming on, more creative inspiration, I'm starting to see new things. I can amplify that by concentrating on it more and allowing it to occur more. It opens my eyes more. I find myself looking instead of just being. I'm looking at more, and I'm seeing more. And then I allow the process of my imagination to move it one way. Try it on this way. Try it that way. So I'm starting to see now more in 2 dimensions. How translating this into information that I'm going to arrange on paper or canvas. I guess I went through a period, you might say, where I just loved to work in various colors of grays, so warm grays or cool grays, and use light and shadow to dictate the form, you know, let the whites of the paper live and create the forms using the shadow. If you want white, it's got to be there. So you got to think about how you're going to perform something, very much like batik. Last couple of years, I'm concentrating more on bringing less painting equipment, making it count better, sticking more or less to the watercolor. But yeah, that changes all the time.
His current kayak is the third one he's built. It has a solar panel and running lights, which allow him to travel at night and be seen by the large freighters that ply the same seas. He equipped this kayak with 3 sails to take advantage of the wind and travel long distances without having to paddle.
Yeah, I've got an envelope with a few charts in there. I don't usually know where I'm going in the summertime, and so I just put a few in there, and I usually find that I'm missing the area that I'm in anyways. But I've been up along the coast so much that visually I know where I am and what's around every corner. So I just carry a couple of charts that have an overall span right from Vancouver Island to Prince Rupert and show the general way.
Stuart began his adventures on the water at an early age. He learned to paddle in Lachine Rapids on the St. Lawrence River, almost in his backyard.
My parents had a little motorboat when I was a kid, and then I met someone his dad made him a little paddle board. So next thing I knew, I was out on this paddle board shooting the rapids every day and dreaming of what it might be like to live a life outdoors in the wilderness. And my parents also, especially my mother, loved a free type of life. She was always happy and laughing and had a very open mind and encouraged me a lot to follow my heart's ways and do what I felt. I troll a lot over the side of the kayak, and I put it on a bungee cord like a jolly jumper. So if I catch a fish, he bounces on the end of this thing until he gets tuckered out, especially if it's a large salmon. You know, you don't want to get too close to those when you're only a few inches from the water, and you make eye contact with them, and they're pretty clever guys, and they put up a good fight when you try and grapple with them by hand when there's a hook flying around.
In designing this kayak, Stuart learned from his previous experiences, and this time, after too many encounters with grizzly bears in inlets along the coast, he built a kayak that he can sleep in, and roomy enough for him to turn over to each side.
sometimes I'll be so exhausted from an occurrence that may have happened. I've had to paddle so long yesterday when I didn't think I would have to, or I did anyways. And today is just time to rest and look. You know, there's nothing worse for me than to try and paint when I'm too exhausted to paint. So don't. And then when I paint, I want to have as much energy and as much information at my fingertips as possible. So I've learned that over time, to have patience and paint when it's time to paint. And I also sort of nurture and culture my mental and creative faculties so that I can actually paint. It's a discipline. I haven't seen anyone for 5 weeks, and I've continued this process of putting all my energy through the same channel and thinking day and night of only visual perception, feeling, and dealing with life as almost as an animal does, as a bear or a seagull or a otter. When you're not healthy or energetic, you are not exuberant, you're not inspired. And so for me to get rid of all those things that get in the way of my mind, that is confusion or worry or any tribulations that interfere with peace of mind, release a state of mind that can fly freely like a bird, and then I can follow it. I stalk a painting like a person might stalk a deer, but you get to know the deer first. Let's say I put myself in a condition when I'm going to paint. I know that it's time for me to do a painting, and it's coming onto the full moon. I'm going to rest well. I'm going to nurture myself, culture myself. So I will come to a place and I'll walk up and down the beach for, a day, several days, and I'll check the evening light and the morning light, and I'll think about it and kind of shoulder up to it, and I'll sketch here, sketch there, until I come to know all of the subtleties and understand it on a very intimate level, because it's caught my eye in the first place. So finally, when I've got as much information from all around, then I know, okay, I will not miss the point now. I've caught as much as I can. The more sensitively and the more fully I can understand the subject, then when I put something down, it encompasses all that information there, so I can accomplish. There's a movie screen in the mind upon which anything can play. And if I leave that screen blank or open to have projections,
and I'm not standing in the way of it. If that's what I'm doing out there for the whole summer, I don't have any interference. Anybody that I talk with or meet, or there's daily, it's a form of consciousness that I can continue on for months and not have any interference. And when a vision starts to form, then I see it. The original snapshot in the rough is taken. The perception is sort of glued on. But then for the next days or a week or 2 weeks, I'll work on it and I'll move this object there and bring the color in or get rid of the color. Move it this way, move it that way. Or I will make a sketch at the beginning until finally I say, yeah, oh, there it is. Now I see exactly what it's like. It's cohesive now, you know. Then I can put it down and work with it. And then there's more work too, because even in performing it, it's not exactly what I meant. It's not quite strong enough yet, or it's unbalanced. You know, I'll work out a sketch. You know, I'll paint a bigger, make a more color sketch after the original sketch, and then I'll come up with the final painting. I want to go beyond the normal parameters of what I've known before and what we all know before. So I adventure into places of the unknown, perceptually or emotionally, and from there I may glean something. And if I don't, fine. But if I do that, then the probability is higher, and sometimes the prices that I pay, they vary. But it's a matter of opening up the experiential, perceptual world. It's creating more synapses, let's say. I keep on pushing out, you know, more, so I'm able to get more. There are cycles when I really hunger to concentrate only on expressing and crafting artwork, but then there's a time when I'm exhausted by it. And as I get older too, my eyes can't work for 8 hours on a painting anymore. You never know what will happen in the course of a day as long as they are here. They start at 3:30 in the morning and they end at 11 at night. And the time you spend asleep is more or less sometimes waiting to peek at the sunrise colors. And then in the fall, the days will start at 9 o'clock in the morning and end at 3:30 in the afternoon, and it'll be pouring rain and a gale blowing all day. Watercolors dry perfectly well in this climate, but sometimes when you're working in the sort of climate that we've got here, we even the watercolors, it's impossible to. You can sit there for hours in some of these rainstorms, and you've started a watercolor unless you get some heat source, some drying source close by. It'll be wet, you know, for hours. Too wet to work. The dampness of the air is handy many times because your paper will take the color, it opens up to the moisture. And other times it's a real detriment. There's been times when I want to paint something, but there's no way that it's going to dry. So you can't add more color because it's going to bleed everywhere and you can't dry it. Well, the rain was hitting the painting as I was painting, and I was just trying to get the sky down before the rain hit, and I was pinching the time, and so I just ran when the rain started to sprinkle the surface of the painting, and it looks like I just made it. I was so devoted to my artwork and jealous of the time that was being taken away from me every time I would have to go back to work to buy more time for myself. I'd just get rolling, and then I'd be running out of time being money, that I couldn't afford more art supplies, I couldn't afford to eat, or one way or another I had to get a few more dollars together. So I would do things like tree planting, I would do odd jobs, carpentry, whatever might come along. And then I would stop doing that and just launch only into doing artwork, so I could concentrate only on that. I was wasting so much time not working, not doing my artwork, and there were people all around me who were willing to to support me by buying a painting and giving me the time rather than watch me go and work at something else. To be able to do that for the last 15 years at least now is carry on, knowing that the sacrifices I made before that were a lot worse than the ones what I'd have to put up now living on the out coast.
You know, seeing the group of 7 work and starting to work outside myself, I found a great joy in working outdoors, and then the application of oil paint and the craft of painting in itself involve you in a very exciting sort of craftsmanship that is part of the painting experience. But for the most part, it's the way I feel, perceive, and see and evolve more my spiritual aspect that I'm, interested in portraying, and the use of the landscape as a sort of a medium to translate those perceptions. That's why I don't use things like whales and birds and other things like that, just so I'm not misleading the direction of the viewer I'm more looking beyond the surroundings or the physical aspects of what's around me. This ability or effort to create and to paint is something that almost walks beside me and nudges me now and then. It's not the kind of day that you can paint outside because the ambient moisture is so all permeating that nothing will dry outside, or too much moisture falling down. So here I can work on things. I have a little propane burner if things get too wet and I want to dry painting off and keep on working on it. I can just put my little propane burner on it. And this is up around Whale Channel, up around Otter Group in the early morning with the outflow wind. Just this sort of a whimsical vision of the passages up there around Otter Passage. Morning light through the mountains and clouds in the early spring. Lots of times I'll take out my sketchbook and I'll be glad for a day or two of rain, because there's a lot of sketches where I don't sit down and I like to those paintings a lot more because I have time to sort of assimilate and ruminate over the visual thing and rearrange it in my mind's eye until I know exactly what I want to put down, but I haven't had a chance yet, and because there's so many other things going on, whether I'm traveling or just painting out on, outdoors, that I like to sit down and take some of those ideas and that I've been formulating for a while and put them down. I brought about 50 full sheets overall and split some, and I guess there's about at least, must be over 25, must be about 40 sheets in this box, and I've got 2 boxes like this You know, if I came out of a summer with 10 full sheets of half-decent watercolor paintings that size, I'd be flying, you know. I mean, that's a lot of quality production. You know, if I do 5 paintings that have great possibilities or good possibilities, I'm pretty happy about it on that size, you know. But I do like to have at least 5 anyway after a summer of pieces that are meaningfully well performed, you know.
And sometimes I'll leave in the early spring, and that won't be done until I've eked out the last of the last leaves of November winds, until there's no daylight left and there's too much rain to even think about being, you know, out in, and you can't even keep a fire going anymore. Now everything is come to dead time, and it's too difficult to be out in this environment. And I can make better use of my time with electric lights and inside a studio. Then I'll come back to my studio.
My eyes were old and my hair was white, and I was bent and thin. The fate that awaits for you if you hold to your lives of sin in the wind. And the wind rolling. And the wind rolling.
In the late fall, he returns home with sketches and paintings to work in his studio. Until the following spring, when his drive to create will call him once again out onto the water.
So I did a few little sketches, but more I was recording the feeling of the place. It was so wet that I couldn't paint. But as soon as I had a chance, while it was still fresh, I made an effort, and I lost a couple in the process, but you can't retouch that paint. I can't touch it again. It's gonna ruin it. This was Terror Point. As the storm subsided, I kind of took an overview of it, and that was where the wolf came down on the beach. There's a southwest storm subsiding. This is Campania Island, Terror Point, and Calamity Bay. This is only half finished, and I think there's probably about 100 hours in it now. You know, they just add up 8 hours today, 6 hours the next day. It's like developing a photograph. I just got to keep pulling it out. I want to give it more dimension, more contrast, without losing the feeling or overworking the paper.
But a lot of little detailing until the whole surface of the painting is harmonious.